The budget prepares their docket. It's given to the town clerk. The town clerk goes to the printer. It goes to a public hearing, and then to the financial town meeting. If we have the veto power, that, I think, has gone before the people 3 times for a charter amendment. And 3 times the people in this town have said, no, we don't want the council to have that power. The council is the facilitator here. They have to oversee to make sure that the state approval has been met. And then I think it goes to the financial town meeting. That's the area of disagreement. To me, it is the financial town meeting, and a specific resolution that was done in the past would have to be presented, and the townspeople vote it up or they vote it down. But that's our area of disagreement.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I've got a couple questions and comments. First, I have a question for Mr. Pikes. Is Section E in the recitation of the current law correct, particularly having to do with the portion that says, in the case of a city or town having a financial town meeting, the majority of electors present and voting at the financial town meeting shall also approve the excess levy? Is that indeed the law?
I believe that is how the law is published, and in fact, that also is in fact the word that leads to the ambiguity.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So notwithstanding what may or may not have been discussed at pre-legislative action meetings, the law says the town financial meeting shall also approve.
Well, my interpretation has been that the also.
Excuse me.
Well, wait a minute. You've asked my question.
You answered my question. Thank you. I didn't ask you for your interpretation. I would like to say a few words. So now, if the statute clearly says the town financial meeting shall also approve, then how can you say in paragraph 3 of your proposal, notwithstanding anything herein?
Well, that.
Now,
Do you want me to?
yes.
I believe, well, there's 2 things. One is, I believe the also in subsection E refers to subsection D of the Act, not the previous clause of the sentence about the governing body. So it may surprise you, but I actually agree with Mr. Lambert about that the financial town meeting could not violate the sections of subsection D, and I could see changing paragraph 3 to add something to that. I have some thoughts on how to change that, to add that the ability to exceed the cap would only be within the limitations of subsection D. But let me give you a hypothetical situation. The budget projections and whatnot under subsection D are presented to the state, and the Department of Revenue and the Auditor General say, okay, you, Tiverton, are authorized to exceed the cap and raise taxes by up to 10%. And that comes before you, and under this policy, it's the council, whatever. The council takes a vote, even by the 4/5 majority, and says, no, we're not going to exceed the cap by that much. We are only going to go to 5%. From 4.5, we're just going to go up to 5%. We're only going to exceed the cap by a little bit, even though the state says we could exceed it to 10%. It is my belief that if someone comes on the floor of the financial town meeting and says, I make a motion to amend the budget such that it would be, say, an 8% increase, that would be allowable. It would still be within subsection D, as approved within that, but it's the basic authority of the financial town meeting and the citizens to tax themselves. If someone came up on the floor of the town meeting and made a motion and said, I want to increase the budget, and it's going to end up as a 12% increase, and the state, in fact, has only authorized up to 10%, I would agree with Mr. Lambert that that would be out of order. That would not be properly allowable under Section B, which is what I've said that I think the also refers to.
Okay, thank you. Now, I would respond, I certainly don't follow how you got the shall also approve as part of subsection D, but for the moment, let's just concentrate on shall also accrue. Even under your scenario, I take exception to paragraph 3 of your proposal, starting with notwithstanding anything, because you just laid out a scenario where the state approval of 8% would trump the financial town meeting from increasing to 12%. I think that the financial town meeting does have a role to play, but only within sections B and E.
Well, I would add,
Notwithstanding anything.
that's fine. I mean, it's up to you. If you want to do away with section, you can do it, this is a policy, you can adopt or not adopt whatever you want. If you would want to keep section 3, I would suggest after the word cap in the second line, impair the authority of the financial town meeting to exceed the cap, instead of just saying set forth in the act, to say within the limitations of subsection D of the act. And that would address, I think, those concerns.
Okay, and now you raise some concerns for me in this discussion. If in fact we intend to seek to override the cap and apply to the state for permission, and permission is granted to a certain level, when we get to the financial town meeting, how do we determine at what point we're exceeding that particular cap? We vote a school budget first. If someone gets up and increases a number that the budget committee presents and increases it by 12%, and if that number didn't put us over the cap yet, so then the municipal side of the budget has to be reduced not to exceed the 10%, or those motions would be out of order. I see. I don't follow how we get to that end procedure as you're describing it, and I just, those things all have to fit to this and mesh to this puzzle on how we handle excesses of the cap. Let's get one answered, and then we can. Because
Mr. President, following along that, basically right now in the financial town meeting, any voting resident of the town of Tiverton can impact any line item of the budget, any, whether it's the school or municipal side. So in essence, you could go over the cap immediately if everybody stood up and changed everything line, which is.
I'm just saying, but my point is, if under the scenarios as being described by Mr. Tice, that you applied, and the state said you could increase the levy by 10% because of you fit into one or more of these categories, and we believe your numbers, so you can have an excess of 10% instead of 4.5%. So a budget prepared and is presented to the financial town meeting, and it comes in at 8%. At what point at the financial town meetings the motions become out of order because it puts us over the prescribed 10%? That could be done with the school department budget. If somebody got up and said, I want to give the school department an extra $700,000, gets voted upon, then the municipal side would have to then therefore be reduced to stay within that number, and would be going through havoc to figure out where we would have to be making cuts and so forth, which doesn't seem to make sense. And that's why, when we try to put this thing together,
It may be that there are enough variables under this particular aspect of the statute that they get settled in a lawsuit. Because to write and accommodate varying views, let me just put another view out.
I'll give you another one.
Go ahead.